What would really annoy the fans? That's really the only thing that I'm interested in. What do the fans don't want? Let's find out what the fans don't want on Reddit, and then that'll be the next Thor film for me. In the moment, you're like, this is the greatest thing that anyone's ever filmed in the history of filming things. And you get into the edit, you're like, I still kind of like it. And then after about 6 months of it being in the movie, you realise
it's like
it was fun on the day. It doesn't have any business being in the movie.
It's like a Monty Python sketch.
Yeah. It really, about 5 times, it just gives up on the story and just sits for 10, 15 minutes.
The story
of
was
just telling
sacrificed
jokes.
for jokes.
And then,
What a waster, what a fucking waster. You pissed it all off the wall. Round the corner where they chased her, there's tears coming out from every wall. The city's hard, the city's fair. Get back inside.
Hello and welcome everybody to a bonus episode of the End podcast, and it's to coincide with the very recent release of Thor, Love and Thunder. This is going to be spoilers, so if you're going to get Mardy Bum about it, then probably switch off now or find me on us on Twitter and tell us that you didn't like it. So we have a little quick talk about it, and then we're going to get into all the nitty gritty, or as I'm going to say, this shitty. So with me as always, spoiler. So with me as always is Tim. So let's find out how Tim is first. How you doing, pal?
Buddy, what's up? I'm doing great. It's been a while since we talked in person now. Everyone should know we talked offline here for about 20 minutes, and we were just going over some disappointing sports results.
Yeah.
For those of you who know from last time, I like the Boston Celtics. They lost the finals. So it's been a little while since I've been over that. I've had to get over that one. But they'll be back, and otherwise it's been good. It's blazing hot here. Anyone who's American knows that in the Mountain West, it's a terrible place to be in July. 105 degrees yesterday.
Frying egg on the road heat, isn't it?
Hell yeah, dude. That's like pavement melting under like a car's tire heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I was complaining about 28 degrees Celsius here, and then Tim was like, all right, how hot's that then? you want to talk about heat, dear? You want to fucking talk about heat? Let me tell you.
Yeah. Other than that, good. It's been kind of work busy, but that seems to be, well, by this time next week, I'll be back to normal, but it's been, I don't know, pretty busy, pretty hot, pretty sad. But we got a good movie. Well, we have a movie that we'll have a good conversation about.
Yeah, definitely. So,
yeah.
Definitely.
How are you been, dude?
I'm all right. I just want to add that your excitement for the Celtics was completely contagious, and it became my very localized obsession for 2022. It's enjoyable, though, isn't it? That's sports. If you don't get beat, then you don't look forward to the next win. Although when Leicester won the league and we won almost every game, I can tell you that was decidedly more interesting and enjoyable. It had the right result at the end of it as well. So,
well, I'll send you a jersey. You can wear it next season.
Yes, that sounds good to me. So, because Tara's got an England scarf and a Leicester City scarf, but I feel like I've tricked her because I'm kind of like bringing her into it after we've won everything. So like Leicester, Leicester doesn't win that often, and we've put a few cuts together, and obviously we won the league back in 2016. But other than that, just busy. Yeah. It's hard, isn't it?
Are you in your new place?
I've always said, right, well, once we get to the end of this job, once we get to the end of this, then we'll do it. But I've just realised, like, there is never going to be time if we wait for that. So I'm just going to now say, right, a day next week, a day the week after, whenever it is, 100% that's when we go. Because otherwise it is never going to happen. And it is like, it is weighing on my mind a bit. But yeah, I mean, that's life, isn't it?
If you're waiting for the perfect time, you're just never going to happen.
Exactly.
For anything. I mean, for anything.
Yeah. Exactly right. Yeah, it's like me not wanting a girlfriend because I put on 4 stone. Well, if I put myself back on the fucking market now, what kind of fat biffer am I going to get interested in this fat cunt? So what's the point? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Might as well admit to myself that I'm going to bin her off when I get in shape, or I'm just going to be incredibly nervous of her binning me off when something better comes along for her.
Right.
So I've just sworn off women. My fucking my mobile internet's gone through the roof, so I'll let you put that one together yourself. Are you still in there? I just got a poorly belly again. Oh, is that why you're breathing so deeply? Right, so Love and Thunder. Let's just get in with just general thoughts, and then we'll go into more sort of nuance and details with the characters, the behind the camera stuff, and the MCU in general. So I think most people know what I think about this. So I'm going to save my thoughts and let Tim take lead on this. So go on, Tim. In a couple of sentences, how did you feel when you got out of that cinema?
Okay, so I saw the movie last night, late last night. It was a full theater, almost. I mean, COVID, like post-COVID full. You know what I mean? Like maybe half full. I find that that's generally a good way to see MCU movies, at least on the first cut, because you get like the fun crowd. You can get kind of into it with people, you know. I'll usually see the movie by myself at least one other time, you know, so I can like just zero in on it. Notwithstanding the fact that the theater was like practically, like I said, post-COVID full. At the end when I walked out, I was like, God, how long was that? And it turns out it was less than 2 hours long, but it felt like 50% longer to me. I was gravely disappointed in the movie, which is sad because I love the first Thor. Like that was the first MCU movie I saw. I have a special place in my heart for like the characters.
So good.
So the first one was just so interesting because it was unexpected that it was going to be a comedy. I just did not think that. I just didn't have any sense of that because it's hard to think back, but at the time, the only comic book movies that there were relatively dark DC movies. Marvel didn't have a pedigree at that point. So the fact that it was a comedy, I thought it was great. I remember leaving that one. This is fucking great. It's almost become a parody of itself. How many bad jokes can we shoehorn in that are just ill-timed?
Yep.
There's a couple things I admire about the movie, but in general, I would say that it was like a real disappointment to me.
I fucking hate this film. I like from the depth of who I am as a person, from the depth of my corporal form, I hate this film. Yeah. And do you know what annoys me the most about it? No, there's no most. This is just let me tell you this. You know, you've got the neck brake seats at the front, and then you've got like a little walkway, and then you've got the higher ups with the steeper pit. I sit on the back row of that front section, so it's on top of me. So the screen's swallowing me. I feel like I'm a part of it. Okay. And nobody else sits in them because I went mid-afternoon on the Friday. And I realised I was shaking my head and tutting consistently because of the relentlessness of the puerile, frivolously juvenile jokes one after the other, the destruction of Thor as a character. And I was shaking my head. I realized that sometimes my hands were at the sides of my head, like I was like an angry Italian at a taxi rank who's just been cut in. And I thought to myself, God, there's no way people aren't noticing how. I had to stop myself under my breath going, for fuck's sake, I wanted to stand up, say something really pertinent, look at everyone else and say, you are better than this, and walk out. But what I realized was I need to walk out. In myself, I'm getting too agitated with it. I weren't going to go back in. And then I remembered that we were doing this. So here's the funny thing. I went back in, and so like people couldn't see my head shaking, my arms in the air and all that sort of shit. I slouched down on my seat. I moved my feet round so I could just put them on the one next to me. This is the contrivance about it. Once it tried to settle down and it was having some calm moments, I actually fell asleep. I wasn't even angry about it. I was angry about Ragnarok. And this is what gets on my tits. I think one of the main reasons that people are reacting to this is because how it treated a stage 4 cancer arc, how it treated the God Butcher arc, because people are familiar with those, so that they have expectations. My problem with Ragnarok, I accept that this is objectively a good film. I accept that I do find myself enjoying moments in it. But when you're calling this film Ragnarok, and this is going back to the Avengers Disassembled, the beginning of the Bendis era in Marvel Comics, they cut off, there was too many Avengers, there was too many X-Men. So what they did was the House of M to take the mutant population down so it was manageable canonically, and they did Avengers Disassembled, and then Bendis took over with New Avengers and all that sort of shit. With that, they got rid of Thor for a couple of years on the Ragnarok arc. I mean, I've spoken about this previously, but he's trying to stop Ragnarok as he does in the film. And he gets to a part where, and I've probably spoken about this before, but at the World Tree, goes to the World Tree for answers because he's failing. And this is like the beginning of the third act in that 6-issue or 5-issue series. And he's saying, what do I need to give? I've given everything I can. And then he thinks of his dad losing an eye in battle. So he takes an eye out and gives it to the World Tree, and nothing happens. And he's like, how foolish am I? All I've done is matched my father. This is just a gesture. It's no more than that. It's me thinking I can match my father. I need to go further for it to have meaning. So he takes his other eye out, gives it to the World Tree. And he sits there, defeated as a hero, defeated as a leader, defeated as a man. One panel, it says, what have I done? How can I help my people now? Because I'm both a fool and blind. And to me, that's one of the most precisely pertinent, powerful series of cells I've read in a Marvel comic. It's unbelievable. And it was about this, the ability to let go of something you love to find something better later on. This is the thing that pissed me off as well. Everybody focused on the Planet Hulk thing. The film's called fucking Ragnarok. This film is just the next good Taika Waititi film. Ragnarok was. Any of the emotional weight of Odin dying, Asgard, his hammer going, they were addressed better in Infinity War and Endgame than they were actually in Ragnarok. It trampled over it. And to me, if you want Taika to make a Taika film with Thor, let's not piss up the wall the 3 best story arcs that we've had in the last 20 years. Because they're gone now. They'll never be able to be used again. Because what we don't want is like an X-Men situation was, well, that kind of was Dark Phoenix, but we've had a soft reboot and now we're going to do that again. The thing that gets me as well with Chris Hemsworth, and I know I've said this so many times, everybody laughs at the sexy girl's jokes because she's the sexy girl. Yeah. It's inherent. Everybody wants to ingratiate themselves to the popular, the good-looking and talented. Subconsciously, there is that for someone like Chris Hemsworth. And also people like a contrivance. Oh, he's really good looking. He's so handsome and rugged and muscular. Oh, but you didn't think he was funny because he's so handsome. He isn't. He's like conversational funny with you. You've got a funny guy in your friends. If he was to do stand-up, he'd die in his ass because all he's doing is reacting to what other people are saying. Putting on a silly voice and saying something slightly out of context isn't a joke. There's no setup. There's no punchline. There's no capture and release. Someone does something, well, I think something silly that relates to what's just happened. Just fuck off. You're not funny. Exactly.
What's so good about the first one, and you can only do it with one because it's fish out of water. 10 years into, like, more. I forget when the first Thor came out. It would have been like 2010?
Something like that, yeah.
We're a decade into Thor. This is his 4th movie. He's been in every Avengers movie plus some additional ones. Like, how, like, to what, like, at what point do we have to give up the fish out of water thing? How can he still be a fish out of water?
I love Dark World as well. I think as an epic, it sits underneath Lord of the Rings. Quite a way below, but as an epic, I think the tone's there. I think it does have comedic moments, like biblical Cain and Abel type situation. Yeah, fair enough. Malekith was a bit of a dull blade as a villain, but that end sequence is great when they're flipping through all the dimensions and he's chasing his hammer and then he has to go on the tube with it. Like, there was some comedic notes. That part where you have Chris Evans playing Loki playing Captain America, where the Dark Elves come through and they just really well orchestrated, choreographed warfare.
Yeah,
it works. And also the way that they all play their little parts in it, like a heist film, that classic heist trope whereby as they're talking through how they're doing it, you see the video of them doing it. Like, it's, I really liked it. And again, I'm not trying to say people are wrong for not liking it, but from that, can you imagine if they'd held their nerve? Let's say the last 2 films after Endgame, how would it work? I don't know. But let's say if we did like a War of the Realms sort of thing, but kept it fairly compacted, that could have worked if they'd have gone into like this, like Lord of the Rings style trilogy. Ragnarok, complete tone change. People generally liked it, but in this, it didn't work. It was relentless. It was just one thing after another. And one of my biggest concerns is when he said it's even going to be even more wacky, even more crazy, and you're dealing with a type 4 cancer arc. How do you fit that in? When you go to somebody, the Gore arc, where it's like someone is that tragically impressioned by events in their lives and feels so let down by the gods, how do you fit that in? And those, it felt like completely different films. The silly, the daft cunt Chris Hemsworth parts, even that, I was like, why are the Guardians acting like this? Like the only one that was believable was Mantis. Like I was like, this isn't how they're written.
So weird. That whole thing was like crazy. And then I almost blocked this out, but the whole stuff where they had Matt Damon in the movie playing Loki, I was just like, can we fucking please with this? Like, come on. That made me so irritated. I hate like going for a big joke, tongue in cheek, kind of like wink wink to the audience and just fails completely. There's one guy in my theater who was laughing like the whole time, and I think everyone else was like not having fun.
That's the thing. British audiences are quite reserved, but if you go in the first couple of days, people will at least laugh out loud. It was definitely silent. I think the part that did me the most is when he does the Jean-Claude Van Damme splits, and I was like, I'm out. I can't do this. That was when I couldn't do it. Honestly, if this is it, I'm out. I cannot.
That's so bad.
Not only was it tonally destructive, there were 3 films going on here. There's the whole thing about Athenian gods with Zeus, Gore, and then you have Mighty Thor, Jane Foster art. What I don't understand is why you needed Gore and Jane Foster, Mighty Thor. They are chasms apart in the comics. One of them is the Mighty Thor with Asad Rabbit and Jason Aaron. We then have an 8-part miniseries of Who is Lady Thor. Then we have a 12-part miniseries where it's revealed. And then you have the 50-issue run, which basically has her as... No, sorry, it's God of Thunder is the Gore one. God of Thor, God of Thunder is the Asad Ribbich one. And then it's the Mighty Thor is the one with Jane. Because the first arc is the God Butcher and the second arc's the God Bomb. So you probably have about 40 issues in between them. 2 very complicated, very earnest, very well-considered art that are miles apart. The first cut of this was over 4 hours. And that's not to say that was the one. That's just all the available material. And then they start to refine it.
Yeah.
This was poorly edited. Gore wasn't in it. We didn't see him killing any of the fucking gods. It was like that scene at Endgame when they were like, who's alive and who's dead? And they have it on the screens. It reminded me of that. Gore could have been anybody at all. It didn't matter. Whatever you want. The pertinence of his character was just completely eviscerated. How can you have a villain that's threatening when you never see him posing a threat? So you've got these 3 films that are all fighting. Canonically, the Gore film's a problem because it's piss poor writing. The Jane Foster one's insulting because you need to treat stage 4 cancer with more respect. It was just tagged on. I don't want to say they were fighting for prominence. They just all sort of collapsed under each other's weight. Yeah.
I mean, I completely agree. I don't know. Yeah. The way they're weaved together undermines like any emotional weight or narrative weight that any of them would have individually. You know, so painful. And then also, where's Kat Dennings? Like, can we get more of her? The only scene she's in is that like sad chemo scene.
And it was the only one where I actually felt like it was an issue.
Yeah.
And they do nothing to explain during the way. When she turns into Thor, they never... First of all, you've got one of the most prominent moments when she actually, for the first time, turns into Thor as a flashback, and we don't see it.
Totally.
And then, like, every time, there should have been a scene whereby when she's hiding what it's doing to her, when she walks away and she staggers or she collapses under the weight of, because all the chemo's gone out of her, and then she goes back and the doctors are like, we can't explain it, but it stopped working. It's just piss poor writing. And for me, they cut out the Peter Dinklage scenes. Oh, who's the guy from Jurassic Park?
Chris Pratt?
No, it speaks a little bit like this, but if you come over here, then we'll do a little space-time continuum. Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Heaney. Is it Lauren Heaney? Something like that?
Yes.
Let me have a look.
Heaney's her last.
Yeah, Lena, not Lauren, Lena Headey. She was paid $7 million for a role that was completely cut out of this. What I think's happened, and we talked about Ike Perlmutter oversight and how it was strangling, like he wouldn't do a black character because no one's going to go watch it. He won't do a female character because no one will go and watch it. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have done, but all I'm saying is, but it seems now that Feige has no oversight. And all he's doing is saying, we're detailing the 4 set pieces and you have to fit in whatever you want to fit in between those set pieces. Say, for example, Black Widow, they already had the set pieces written and they had to get from point A to B to C to D. And that's how that film was written. There you go. Yeah. Now write your film in between it. It feels like the oversight's gone for me. What's most painful is when, I mean, we like Black Widow, but it's not universally liked. Eternals was a problem. People either liked it or didn't, but very divisive. I thought Shang-Chi was painful, as did you, but people generally seem to like it. Spider-Man, great film, but it was, let's say it's Sony, for argument's sake, with Marvel oversight. Doctor Strange was weak. And now we've got this. I'm kind of like, do you know what? I'm not excited for the next one anymore.
I know, dude. I actually had forgotten that this was coming out until like last week.
Me too. I got my tickets on the day.
I've now like softened in my interest in Eternals too. Like I was comparatively high on it at the time. I'm now like, not as high on it. I mean, I would say I was not as high. I was not high on it. I found it to be like admirable in its like noble failure.
Yeah.
You know, and now I'm like not even that into it. So like, I agree. I think we've had a few duds. I think I liked Doctor Strange more than you did, but going back to like Endgame, it's not like at that point, it was clear like everyone was going to be some version of a banger, you know? And now I'm like, well, is this going to be successful at all? You know, any of this. Yeah. And honestly, the one I like the best is Black Widow, probably.
Yeah, me too. Still.
Yeah, and I still think it's great.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. But I've been like, oh wait, well, no. I guess Spider-Man 2. That was I love that one too. But I would say less than half of these, you know, that I've actually like straight up liked.
Yeah, and there's none of them that I really want to go back to. In actual fact, contrarily to that, they're things that I'm happy to just put on while I fall asleep, and I can turn away and nod off within
Eternals,
15 minutes. Yeah. Well, I did that a lot with Eternals. But even like Shang-Chi, because it has long interrupted speaking parts, I know I'm pretty safe. Like if I can put up with the special effects for 15 minutes, there's going to be a part whereby this is where I nod off.
Right.
My cousin and one of my good friends, Dan, they both said like Endgame, no, that was pretty much it for them. Like they felt satiated by a conclusion to the story. Yeah. And I think the biggest problem as well is there's not the biggest 2 characters they have through Flow now are Doctor Strange and maybe Spider-Man. Spider-Man's up in the air, and Doctor Strange, while Bumbleduck Cumberstunch, he invests in the role, there's no doubt, and he said he'll do it as long as they'll have him. But he's not a charming, charismatic center stage to hang your hat on. He's not like Chris Evans. He's not like Chris Pratt or Chris Hemsworth when done correctly. What annoys me when you said fish out of water, there was growth, and it culminated in Infinity War and Endgame. There was clear progression after Ragnarok, and then he just goes back to being a dumb fucker here. Like it doesn't make sense. Who watched this in any of the pre-screenings and went, this is where this character needs to be now? Exaggerate like tenfold.
2 different versions of the character, one in the team movies and one in his individual movies. It's almost just like all that stuff never happened.
It's like night and day.
Yeah.
Even when you look at what he was doing in Ultron, when he was like, I've got to go away because something's happening off-world that needs my attention. You guys have got that. That shows like an emotional intelligence. And also the whole of the first Thor film was about him not being a dick. And then realizing, oh, if I'm going to stand a chance at being a good king, I need to not be a dick.
Yeah.
If they're saying to me, we're going individual films now, don't invest too much into it, fine, I'll do that. I'll do it. Happy to do it. But you're not. Because all I'm getting from Feige is you're going to know. Soon you're going to know.
It's easy to spot a failed comedy because like in an actual comedy that work, I guess I don't pay attention because you're laughing, but like they must build in these pauses after like a good joke for people to laugh and the story picks up again. And they clearly attempted to do that with this movie, but it just felt ill-timed because the jokes never landed. It's just like a joke and then a pause for laughter that never comes, and then like the movie continues on. It was just like so bizarrely edited that way.
Do you know, with a good comedy, say Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 1, when you rewatch it, the expectation for the joke is as good as the surprise of the joke the first time. Go on, say it. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Right. No, I know it's coming. Come on. So, almost went back and watched it the day after for 2 reasons yesterday. First one was to see like how bad it is without that element of surprise. The second one was so I could actually walk out and get the scene. Fuck you, YTT, and then walk out.
Oh, God. I'm a little bit over him, to be honest.
It's kind of like the misstep in the way that Feige was saying the Eternals that we've got our first Oscar bait film. I'm like, okay, who's overseeing what you're doing now? Because this is happening far, far too often. Do you think it's because he's spread too thin with all the TV shit? Or do you just think that he's lacking oversight?
It might be spread too thin, but it might also be like, I don't know, like it seemed like they had an idea from the very beginning of Iron Man, like what the arc was going to be. And maybe they still do. I mean, maybe it's like the thing is Secret Wars, not they're building towards that. But I mean, part of it's just the sheen is sort of like rubbed off. With each iteration of the MCU, it's harder to meet expectations because the expectations have been set so high. But I don't know, man. It might be oversight.
Because Alan Horn's gone from the second in charge. Bob Iger's gone. You've got Bob Chapek that's pissing everybody off. I can't see who Feige's reporting to anymore because it was a very linear Kevin Feige, Alan Horn, Bob Iger at the top, a linear line of command. Now, who does he go to? I've heard more of the executives below him, Victoria Alonso, like Esposito, and Nate Moore's a name that's popping up more and more. So we're hearing less about the oversight and more about the people that are picking up these IPs.
You know, it's interesting. We talked, this is probably like a year ago, I would think. We talked about Disney's restructuring. We talked about it in the context of like the Disney Plus shows being launched, right? So it would have been a year and a half ago, and speculating about what impact that could have. And it seems like the failures, to the extent they are failures of the cinematic, not TV, but the MCU, in theaters, has corresponded or is correlated with that restructuring.
I think I'm a little hotter on the TV projects than most people. I think that I loved Hawkeye. I did like Hawkeye. But again, with that and Black Widow, it's just giving this like phase one stuff. It's just a guy with a problem, and it's not complicating it too much.
That one had the advantage of he never had his own standalone films. You know, it's like, so there's lots of material to mine there in the Hawkeye character and the Hawkeye sort of lineage. So, I mean, that's in that sense, you're right. It is like, it's phase one-ish in that respect.
I don't know. I think it kind of feels like you've got like a proprietary love for it, whereby I've invested so much, so I own a part of it emotionally. When it lets you down, you struggle with it a little bit. And it's the opposite of when you find a band that you like and you want everybody to know about it because it's your favorite new band. But then when they become popular, you don't like it because everyone knows. It's kind of like the reverse of that now, that I don't like it, but I don't want everybody else to not like it. I don't want everybody else to tell me it's great when it's not. Do you know what I mean? It's that same sort of thing. Where this is going to hurt it the most, it's like Transformers fatigue, whereby the Last Night, whatever it was, still got the billion because because everybody liked the previous film. But then Bumblebee, despite it being a great film, on the back of the last one being poor, they're not going to see the hit now. But the next round of films, we're going to see whether they can hold their own still or not. Because if people start saying, "Oh, it's going to hit $1 billion" or whatever, it probably will do. That's not the box office that we need to be concerned with. I mean, what do we have coming up this year? We've got Black Panther 2.
That's got to be up in the air. I mean, you know, like no longer having what's his face? What is his face?
Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, I mean that is totally up in the air.
They needed to just buy. They were silly to make an announcement. They should have left it, and they should have recast him. It's that straightforward. Because not only have you taken off Rogers off the table, you've also taken Black Panther off the table. Captain Marvel's out in space, so she's not going to have any agency. Hulk can't appear in anything. Black Widow's dead. Hawkeye's off the table for the big scope stuff. So you're kind of like, well, who have we got left? We haven't got anybody. And I know at the time people make emotional decisions and you can understand that. But at the same time, it was the wrong decision to be made. I just want to talk briefly about the fake out deaths again. And like with Korg, I was like, oh, that was one of the few moments where I was like, oh, okay, no, I get that. I like that. I like it when Korg died. But then they just picked up his face. And I would have had more respect if they picked up a pebble with everything all the time, all at once, like googly eyes on it.
Yeah.
Like picked up one of those, like in some like meta
like
reference.
Like a mini Groot type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would have been more inclined with that one. The whole Jane, oh God, the whole Jane Foster thing is where she sacrifices herself, and again I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I can kind of get it. It's sad. It's not earned in any way. You've not built up to this. It's just a choice that you made. But okay, at least we've gone this route. Now, in the comics, where that had pertinence was because Odin met her in Valhalla, and Jane Foster and Odin was like, get that mortal out of the city. She doesn't deserve to be here. The way that they kept her being allowed in there is because Frigga had her back, and she put her on the like the Intergalactic Council representation for Asgard, and she was like a doctor in Asgard to cover her back. But Odin was very much against her being there. His brother Bor was also, it's his brother, isn't it? Bor, I think, was actively sort of a bad actor against her. And why that scene was felt most at the end of the Jane Foster Mighty Thor run was because Odin met her at the gates. And not only did he greet her with open arms, he said, it's not your time yet. You've got more work to do, and sent her back. The whole contrivance with taking the children as well. And do you know all those children were cast members' children?
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, Christian Bale, Chris Hemsworth, whoever had a child was brought on set. Even the little girl was Chris Hemsworth's daughter. At the end.
Kidding.
Yeah. And that whole thing at the end was such a if that, then what? And I'm always one of these people that says, look, dude, it doesn't have to make sense. How can that happen when they said that 2 years ago? Easy. The screenplay hadn't been written for this film yet. That's the only fucking answer we need. That's the only answer we need. Why didn't the Eternals get involved in Infinity War? Because the script hadn't been written yet. Simple. Totally. Easy. Just accept it. Walk away. But when you've got one of the cosmic entities, one of the like celestial beings in eternity, everybody gets one question. And I know it's specifically Gore that found this route to it. That one question would have been handy on multiple occasions.
Right.
And now going forward, now that Thor knows about this one question rule, celestial coming from the center of the earth sort of thing, like how do you work around that? The other celestial just fucked off and said, you've got 2 years to prove yourself sort of thing. Like like Disney Plus shows whereby people are just getting on with this shit. There's not like a mass panic about potentially world-ending events coming in now what would be 18 months.
Right.
They're over-egging the pudding.
Yes.
They're expanding the cosmology of it far too quickly, exponentially. And I feel like they're misusing him again with Gore. How good would it have been if he turned up at the end of Moon Knight and got rid of Khonshu and a couple of the others?
Would have been sweet. It
would have been sweet. And the whole Athenian thing as well. That ridiculous Greek accent that
Russell
Crowe is putting on is an in-joke to an Australian TV program.
Oh, it's great. Like, fucking...
Yeah, great. So the most sparsely populated country in the world gets to laugh at it.
Right.
These mid-credit stingers, like Eros has just appeared with Pip the Troll, and then Thea just appears and fucks off with Doctor Strange. And now we've got Hercules. What a bizarre casting, by the way. And I $100 to donuts are telling you that they would CGI muscles because he can't be that heavily built going back to Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
100% they were CGI muscles and not good ones. That's the worst CGI since Pip the Troll. And before Pip the Troll, Bruce Banner's head was mysteriously floating above the Hulkbuster at the end of Infinity War. That's why it was so quick as well. It just went to him and goes, right, I suppose I better get on with it then. Well, who the fuck's this? Jason Statham. Like, what? I suppose I better get on with it then.
Oh, so dude, I forgot about Pip.
We've got Russell Crowe doing like his best Jared Leto, mysterious, like Southern European accent. And now we've got this guy that's like, he speaks so slow and it's like he's got asthma all the time as well. I'll go get him for you. Shut up. Fuck off.
And also, how boring and anticlimactic was Zeus's lightning?
Pathetic.
It didn't do anything for me.
It's like you've got another high-powered weapon when you already had two in the locker. Like, it was just completely gratuitous. This film felt like it didn't have a second act. There was a lot of rushed introductions. Then this, and the rushed introductions with all the silly jokes. So the actual introductions was very little. Do you know what this feels like? This feels like the whole first act was supposed to be in the Guardians film that would have come out before this had James Gunn not been fucked off. So they had to fit that in at the beginning with introducing Gore, with introducing Jane Foster, Mighty Thor with stage 4 cancer. And then the middle act, completely garrulous and without purpose. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like what they did visually with the final act in the same way that I really like the music battle in Multiverse of Madness. Natalie Portman is a Academy-winning, Academy-level actress. And you've got her making Willy jokes. She's not a funny person. All of her jokes fell flat. The whole I need a catchphrase thing. It's like, look, YTC, if you don't want to fucking do this and respect it for what it is, take it seriously. Sure, be a funny guy, but don't just deconstruct something, because do you know what? There's a bunch of low-budget films out there already that's done this. Mystery Men. Yeah, Mystery Men. We had the James Gunn one, Super, as well. Woody Harrelson one as well. I think it was called Defender. Like, and all those films perform 10 times better than this does, because you know why? They're not proper superhero films. This is. It's the source material and the parody. Like, you're never going to make that work. You can't recast Jane Foster at this point, but what you can do is write for the tools at your disposal. Take the job for the tools that you have.
Right.
And again, with Bringing Eternity, and we've complicated the hierarchy of metaphysical gods, beings. Again, we've added another complexity to it. I just don't know where you go from there. I don't know where we go from this point onwards.
I almost don't even. It's not like I don't care, but it kind of don't, in a sense. Like, I'm so beaten down by the last couple movies that I don't know. I mean, it would take something like pretty interesting, maybe like the next Guardians, to get me like very pumped up. I like two things about it, and even one, like, it's only a modest like the first time they showed what's the Axe's name? What's the name of that weapon? The Star.
Oh, okay, Stormbreaker. Yeah,
Stormbreaker.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of funny the first time it like kind of slow moved into the screen.
Yeah,
but they went to that joke like 5 times.
Yeah,
it's like, okay. By the 5th time, it's like, all right, that's not funny anymore. But the first like time or two, I thought it was like quite. I was very amused by that. And the other thing I thought was awesome was there's that fight scene towards the end where they play the guitar solo from Guns N' Roses' November Rain, which I thought was like very slick. But that's because I love that guitar solo. Like, it had nothing to do with the actual like footage necessarily.
I can't. I hate it. I hate it almost on a spiritual level.
It's so bad, dude.
Shall we call it there then, Tim?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's been good therapy.
Yes.
So we jumped straight in at the beginning, but you can find us online on Twitter, @the_pod. You can find us on Instagram, @the_pod. You can find us on all streaming locations for your favorite podcast locations, like SoundCloud, like an Apple Podcast, like Spotify. Yeah. So, whether you found this on YouTube, where I've chopped it up and put it on there, go and check out the podcast. We're great. I'm not usually a miserable fucker like this. Only when I'm reviewing the recent MCU films. We'll do a film I like sooner or later. Over to you, Ryan Coogler. But you can find us on all those platforms. So like, share, follow, comment, tell a friend, pass the pod. But until next time, we have been, and this is the end.